Hello and welcome to Grumpy Gamers. You're here with me, Pete, and along with me this week I have Ben.
Hello.
And Eddie.
Hello.
Feeling good, are we, Eddie?
A little bit rough for wear. Yeah. Rough for wear?
Rough
Rough for wear? There you go. That sets the tone for how I'm going to be in this podcast.
Oh, I cannot wait for new releases. So,
Fucking bank holiday weekends, that's the problem. I have to drink on them. It's just the law.
So for people listening, we are recording at almost 6 o'clock in the evening. So Eddie's had we gave Eddie a bit of time today.
Yeah, I mean, he probably only stopped drinking like 8 hours ago, but still.
I was definitely still drunk this afternoon, I can tell you that much. Don't tell my girlfriend.
This is why we had to delay the podcast last week, because we did the same last week. But 2 bank holiday weekends in a row, and you went ham second week as well. I mean, fair play to you.
Well, it's fucking King's fault. Shouldn't have a coronation, should he?
That's the first of his crimes, sure. My God. Anyway, drinkaware.co.uk for those who don't know. But let's move into the show, shall we? And as usual, we will be going through the news, a bit of the new releases, a bit of what we've been playing, which not much brand new, but you're still on Jedi Survivor, aren't you, Ben?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
excellent.
Update on that.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. And our feature this week is on games that deserved a sequel, but obviously didn't get one. Be a bit pointless if we did the ones that deserved it.
I think we've all got some of those in the locker, so yeah.
Definitely. But I suppose we should give Eddie a little bit of time to recover by starting with the quick news, shouldn't we, Ben?
Yeah, let's go with that. Firstly, Zelda Treehouse presentation will be has just been announced. Well, I've cocked that up totally.
Hugely, yes. My God.
Let's start this again. Right, Nintendo will host a Nintendo Treehouse presentation of Zelda Tears the Kingdom the day before it comes out on the 12th of May at 1:45 p.m. in the UK and elsewhere around the world. Reviews are expected Tuesday, Wednesday, I think. I don't know the embargo properly, but I think it's early. And Nintendo seem fucking confident that this is going to review really, really well. So Breath of the Wild was a 97.
It was, yeah.
So I don't... Now, this is obviously a very similar game, but let's see how... I mean, there are people playing out there in the wild, reviewers and such, and I have heard one person has said the word impeccable. So we'll see how this progresses. But yeah. And then in other Zelda news, Reggie Fils-Aimé, the former Nintendo of America boss, he commented on somebody's tweet because they showed a picture of their Nintendo Switch with the Zelda Tears the Kingdom icon there, and it said playing. So they were playing the game early. They said some comment, and then he commented, I don't know what you want. What I do have is a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. So obviously the famous Taken quote, and the person then disabled their Twitter account, presumably out of fear, and left the world of Twitter forever.
Probably a wise choice.
I mean, Nintendo there, he doesn't work at Nintendo anymore, obviously, but still fighting the good fight for... They've had a terrible ride with this one. People playing early, like ROMs out there and things like that. So yeah, I don't know. They've got a problem at Nintendo over this stuff, but it's good to see Reggie having some fun with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Spider-Man Remastered, the PS4 game. It's going to get a standalone PS5 version. You can upgrade for a tenner, I think, right now on your PS5, so you can get the upgraded next-gen version. And it does explain why they removed it from PS Plus. I think we
said that.
We said that because we were anticipating, well, they're going to say more about the second game and people are going to buy the first. Well, they've just made an excuse for people to play the first game again. I mean, bastards / very shrewd business people. So I don't know which side of the coin.
Exclusive. It's the exact same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily a side of the coin there. The new highly anticipated, I think it's called I've never heard anybody say the name, but the Asus ROG Ally. It's the new handheld that's everywhere at the moment. That people have been, every man and his fucking dog has been trialing this out and saying, oh, I've played this, blah, blah, blah. Here are my impressions. Yeah, okay. great little handheld PC. It's supposedly rumored to be around €800. Now that is a spicy meatball. So double the price of a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
I have had my hands burnt with expensive handhelds before. Before the Steam Deck's time, when I was trying to get something which could do exactly what all these do now. But
what was the one you went for? Was it the One X player?
The One X player, and it's great if you are balls deep into fixing up PCs and being able to get the right drivers and do like actually PC gaming. Like I think it's really good for that. You do stuff with it, but it has got flaws. But the great thing about the Steam Deck is, for the majority of people, it is just like off the shelf stuff. Like they've got their own OS and UI and everything. It's just it's just beautiful on the load up kind of thing. You can go into desktop mode and stuff and do extra things, but for most people, the Steam Deck is just so easy, and it's half the price of this. So we'll see how this one goes, and if that is the real price. But
that does
big old price.
Yeah, that does put in perspective, because a lot of people have been saying this is much better than the Steam Deck, and you'd expect it to be twice as good. At least.
Well, to be honest, Pete, like people have been saying, and the specs obviously, and I saw an image where it was running particular games and saying how many frames it would get on like normal settings.
Yeah.
And yes, it's impressive for a handheld, especially. But games in handheld, I just want them to really run consistently. Like I don't really care if it's lower graphical, if you have to run on low settings, or if it's getting even 30 frames a second or whatever. 720p is absolutely fine on a small screen. I don't mind that stuff. I just want it to run well. And the Steam Deck games seem to almost be made. They want that tag of being able to run on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So that's the brilliant thing about it, that developers are actually trying to get that green tick or that verified on Steam Deck tag, and I think so it's good for that, but it's a bit off grid when you use one of these other ones. So I don't know. Let's see how it progresses, because people have been raving about this. I haven't looked too deeply into these because I've got the Steam Deck obviously, and that's where I'm just sticking. But I might look at some previews and see what's going on with this one. But then I'll fucking buy one. That's bullshit.
But you will.
You will. That's what
I always do. I always fucking do. Right, and finally, Xbox Summer Games Showcase. It's been announced. It's happening on the 11th of June at 6 p.m. UK time. So set that on the calendars. I think that's 3 days after Summer Games Fest opening night. So that's a good week. Good week ahead of us.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, about a month's time.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, fantastic. That was actually quick news.
I was thinking exactly that. I was thinking that we're breezing through this. Ben was actually quite concise, and wow.
Yeah. I mean, except for the initial cock up, it was pretty good.
It's under 10 minutes, Ben. That's
I had 5 things there, and I was like, I can't be bothered to do any more. So, so there's probably a lot more news this week, but I had 5, and then I kind of cut it.
I think we've captured the important points. At least.
Maybe.
And I mean, let's be honest, there's one thing that everyone's talking about this week. And it's the interview with Daddy Phil.
Daddy Phil.
Yes. So for those not unaware, this is Phil Spencer of Xbox, who was on the Xcast, which is one of Kinda Funny's podcasts, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, although I always find it odd when they call it a podcast and then do the full video.
It's not a... so do I, Pete. So do I. Anybody who does like a live... Or even this was pre-recorded, but like a show where it's when you're on camera. It's
in a studio. It's in a studio.
Yeah, this one was literally in a studio.
Yeah, it's insane, the production value for a podcast.
Yeah.
But yes, this was a 40-minute episode and a 40-minute interview with him. Which
podcast? Say what it is.
I just said episode. It could be anything. It's fine. That applies to podcast. And it is literally everywhere, isn't it, Ben? The news of this. It's
absolutely. So many stories, like different. Like one interview has created like 5 or 6 stories on these websites. It's
massively, yes.
They're really milking it.
Massively, and we will come to my particular thoughts on this at the end. But for a quick summary, he apologised for letting people down with Redfall. Said that delaying it wouldn't have helped because the artistic vision may not have been met anyway, essentially. He said the mock reviews pointed to Redfall being at least 10 digits higher than it has been. Confirmed that they will say if Starfield will be 30 or 60 FPS.
Yep.
And that they're going to be transparent with this sort of thing going forwards. Said Xbox are unable to out-console Sony or Nintendo. He actually said Xbox is third. And that as part of this, making great games was not going to make them the best console.
Yes.
That is a sort of paraphrased quote we'll come back to as well. He also mentioned that if Starfield is not an 11 out of 10, people won't suddenly be buying... Or sorry, if Starfield is an 11 out of 10, people won't suddenly sell their PS5s for Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a very fair point. Like, there's a whole bit in the middle of this interview where he's talking about losing the Xbox One was the biggest thing. That generation was definitive because everyone built up a digital library of games. And I think that's very fair. Like, it's a good point. We have all got a library of games we've purchased, digital, or in Ben's case, maybe real as well, which we have access to on one particular console franchise. So we're going to stick with that one to have those games, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that was a very fair point. Yeah, it was a very fair point.
Yeah, it was a very good point. The fact that he led it on to say that making great games is not going to sell the console was a bit of an odd one, but it comes back to his overarching aims, which are clearly still focused on Game Pass.
Yeah, it was an odd statement, that, but I also think that's been slightly taken out of context. I don't know what your thoughts on that are. I think he was kind of trying to say that exclusively wouldn't make us
100%.
the top selling
100%.
But obviously he wasn't saying we won't.
A lot.
Yeah.
This has been misconstrued a lot, and people seem to think it's saying that they're not trying to make great games. That's not at all what he was trying to say. What he's trying to say is even if they make the Michelangelo of games, as it were, the Sistine Chapel ceiling of games, it doesn't change the landscape. Which I think is a fair statement. Like, just because of one good game, I'm not going out to buy a PS5. Mm-hmm. Likewise, I'm not going to do the same for Xbox. That's completely understandable, isn't it? Especially when they're 500 quid each, if not more. But before we go more into the reaction to this, I just want to point out this was really contrite and down tone as an interview. Like, he's taken a lot of blame on, like, taking it on the chin, or what was Joe Hart's old thing? Fronting up to it. Do you remember that? When he got super annoying about failures at goalkeeping and was just like, yeah, obviously I'll accept that's my responsibility. It's like, no, we know it is, mate. Don't do it again. That's the point is.
You don't need to accept it. It's already been put on you.
It's like, this isn't helping you. Just don't do it again is the key thing.
Yeah.
And he clearly wasn't hiding from disappointment on Redfall or from the feedback it's received. But I don't know about you. I actually found it quite annoying how pessimistic it was for a while there. Like, the tone of it was a little bit irritating.
So my take on it would be that if he'd come out all smiles, that would have gone down very poorly.
Yeah.
This interview was set up... Well, I think this interview was actually set up for another purpose, but then it's changed into this purpose, or maybe sceptical that they did actually set this up knowing that there was a number of things they need to talk through, and Redfall would be one of them. So let's just assume, though, that they've gone in there and they've changed the tone of this interview. He couldn't go out there all smiling. They had to... I thought it was a little... I wouldn't say annoying is the right word, but, like, I don't like it when... I've had it in, like, work settings before, when people are just like, yeah, that's on me. And they just continue, yeah, that's my fault. Yeah, that's my fault. It's my... Stop fucking saying that. Like, because it diminishes our ability to be able to go, you fucked up.
Yes.
And I understand the point of doing it. We all do it. We all accept responsibility. But when it's just continuous, you're like, okay, right, yeah, right, that's on, right, another thing on you. What, pop it on the tab? Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, and it doesn't solve a problem. That's the thing. It's not in any way solving a problem or providing a way forward. So it's just kind of like, okay, cool, move on. And then, one final thing before we move on again as well. They did also mention Avowed, which was the first time I'd heard that mentioned in a long time.
Well, They did say that they would be talking about some of the games that were, because they reeled off a number of games that there'd been nothing said about them, and he did say a number of those would be talked about in the showcase. So that is really good. I think overall this was a really good move though by Phil Spencer. Like I came across quite negative a second ago, but I thought he did a good job, apart from the one statement, which is kind of, I believe, been taken out of context. He did come on. He didn't have to come out here. He didn't have to do that. So that is good. And he did put a lot of faith back in people that just want to see a console bring out some games, you know?
Yes.
And he did mention about the quarterly releases that he thinks they're close to having, which is also positive.
It is. I think the key for this was sort of dealing with the fire before the big events. Like, you wanted to put this out, to put it away before you get to their showcase. Otherwise, all the questions are going to be on negative stuff instead of positives. They wanted to just brush this away, move on to the next thing. And this was the best way to do that. And it worked well for that purpose. I mean, if you were super hyped for Redfall, it's probably not quite enough, but that's on you for being super hyped for that game.
That's the other thing. Slightly aside from this, the previews for Redfall were all so positive because I think they were given a part of the game which was relatively interesting and played well, and they had fun with it, and people left that event thinking, yeah, this is great, and they played it at 60 frames, and it looked great, and it blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What they had was not necessarily representative of the whole game, and then everyone's expectation of Redfall just blew up, and it just didn't deliver. And it's from what I've played, it's quite boring. But the issue with Redfall is really that because everyone's telling you it's boring, not like me, other people saying it's boring, I've then gone to play it, and I go, oh, this is boring. And then an hour, I go, I can't play it for more than... because they've said it's boring, and it's been boring for an hour. I'm just now going to ditch it. So Redfall's probably getting a bad rap, and it's probably not as bad as what people are saying. But it's just enough people say it, it just becomes truth, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, and momentum is such a key thing with all of this, and the momentum is very much against them on this game. So
it is, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, you can of course check this out yourself if you want to. It's up on YouTube and all over the place. But yeah, I thought the world was taking this as a much bigger thing than it really is, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I think it's always good when Phil Spencer does an interview. People are already very interested. The most interesting thing was that he had one of those Asus handhelds behind him.
Yes, yeah, he did.
Because Microsoft are working with them to support something on
Got to be up on the time. Got to be up on the times.
Yeah, there we go.
Cool. I'll move us on. I'll let you know now, lads. It's, as you know, it's been a bad day for me. It's been a bad day, and with that means my podcast prep hasn't been stellar.
Is it not been stellar?
I was aware.
Sorry, Eddie. Do you class your usual prep as stellar?
I do. I take pride in it, some might say. Now, I normally go through the news story and I paraphrase it and I don't quote it unless it's a direct quote.
Sorry, Eddie, stop right there. You take pride in your usual prep.
Take pride? I look through all the games and I make sure, but this week, I'll let you know now. It's not stellar. It's not to the usual high standard that you normally expect from me. How about that?
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
And with that, Eddie's going full read mode. Activision and Riot make 5 and 6 figure payouts to hundreds of staff. You read this one? There you go. What do you want, Ben? What do you want?
I don't know. You just go. You go, Eddie.
Yeah, this is from Eurogamer. Details surrounding the settlements for Activision and Riot Games employees have revealed that more than 1,500 current or former workers at Riot Games workers have received payments as part of previously announced settlements following a discrimination lawsuit. According to Axios, a recent court filing, 1,548 women have received a payment of $2,500 and $5,000 at Riot, whilst hundreds of Activision employees are also receiving payouts for a separate but similar settlement. In the Activision case, the developer budget is said to be making payments ranging from 5 to 6 figures to hundreds of people who opted into the class action legal dispute, including anyone who worked for Activision Blizzard since September 2016. And based on the EEOC's assessment, could assert a claim for sexual harassment, pregnancy discrimination. I really hope that's not like people being mean to pregnant people. I really hope it's like we're not hiring you because we hope it's not like we're not hiring you for it. Retaliation and or constructive discharge by defendants. Riot Games previously agreed to $100 million settlement to end its long-running gender discrimination lawsuit back in January 2022. Numerous staff members, past and present, said Riot Games had been a toxic place to work where sexism was commonplace. More than 2,000 women joined the suit. So, I mean, I guess this is good news, really, because I know it's terrible, but at least now people are getting money for it.
So it's crazy numbers, isn't it? It's crazy numbers.
It's huge.
I know this is crazy, because I see gamers as such, like, great people, but is the gaming industry actually quite a bad place? Because how many times do we see these stories where game developers, game publishers, horrible places to work, discrimination, sexism, all these horrible people working there?
So, one, it's Riot. If the player base of League of Legends is as toxic as it is, I'm not surprised the workers behind it are.
Very good, yeah. Very good.
But I do think that gender discrimination in particular is pretty rife in the gaming industry.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, Activision and Riot are probably the two worst at that. So
I don't know why is this industry like, because gamers are like it as well. We know that... we've seen things about streamers and female gamers and all this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. I
don't really understand why as a group of individuals that we're a part of. I don't know why that is such a prevalent thing. But it is. It evidently is, because this, you're not. It obviously does happen in other industries. Don't get me wrong, and I'm sure there are many other cases that could be quoted to me, but you don't hear about them as much. And I know we're doing a gaming podcast, so we're kind of the masters of that. We see this stuff because of that, but but I can't believe it. Like this seems to be so prevalent. It's fucking. But again, sets a good precedent for any other companies and such where this would be
above all. Good to see positive steps being taken against it, even if it's from a bad source. Yeah.
There you go.
100%.
Kind of positive.
Also, Eddie, I really enjoy when you go full read mode, especially when you haven't proofread what you're reading.
Oh, yeah.
Current or former workers at Riot Gamer Workers was fantastic.
Yeah. I know, yeah. I thought the company might actually be called Riot Gamer Workers.
To be fair, it does say it in Eurogamer.
That's what I mean. You didn't proofread, You did not check. Oh, fantastic.
And I actually thought that the Eurogamer article was much better than Eddie explaining it. So
I'm really proud of myself. I had some bits when I was reading this out, I had an out-of-body experience. That's how fucking hanging I am. Like,
the amount of times that I've heard you be proud of yourself
I'm so
on
proud
this
of myself.
very podcast,
I'm very proud of myself.
Jesus Christ.
If you set a hurdle as low as a limbo bar, you can't be that surprised if you vault it.
I'm just shocked that I haven't turned my mic off to go chunder. So, I'm proud of myself for that as well.
Actually,
right, let me move us.
For that. Yeah,
let me move. I'm proud of nobody. Let me move us on. So Sony is shutting down one of its studios. Concrete Genie developer Pixelopus is being shut down, unfortunately. So Sony said PlayStation Studios regularly evaluates its portfolios and the status of studio projects to ensure they meet the organization's short and long-term strategic objectives. As part of a recent review process, it's been decided that Pixelopus will close on the 2nd of June. So this studio was established originally with the purpose of giving young developers a new start in the industry.
Nice.
And it was formed in 2014, or was announced as internally part of Sony, one of their studios in 2014. It released its first game, Entwined, but I don't think it did very well. Concrete Genie, on the other hand, I do remember that came out in 2019, and it was quite popular, and so there was a bit of disappointment about this announcement. But They were supposed to be doing a PlayStation 5 game as well in collaboration with Sony Pictures Animation, but I can only assume that's been canned. So they mention about not fitting with short and long-term strategic objectives. That, to me, says that they don't fit the style of this pivot to live service games that Sony and PlayStation are really heavily going into. I don't know if we've had any of them released, but there's like 13 or something that's going to be released. But nothing's been released yet. But that seems to be their focus for the generation: live service games, chasing that trend, which I think was popular, and it probably still is. But chasing trends because development cycles are so long. Look at Suicide Squad. Like, that is a live service game chasing trends, and everyone's just gone, what the fuck is this nonsense? and they've had to back away. So I don't know, like the only one that I'm really looking forward to or aware of is that Last of Us multiplayer game. I think that sounds good on the surface anyway. So, but yeah, any thoughts on this? I mean, Sony must be leading into this live service stuff then.
Yeah, I can't see any other reason behind it. I mean, they've produced 2 games. One of them didn't do very well. One of them did do quite well. It looks to me like Concrete Genie would be, and it's in the Xbox kind of universe, you'll have studios like that their games are going to Game Pass, and they're almost used as Game Pass fodder, which is kind of padding out the service, getting day one games. Look at the likes of Pentiment and stuff like that, where excellent game. I absolutely loved it. Pete, you loved it as well. I did.
But it's kind of pure Game Pass fodder. You're putting it on there. Where
Sony... Isn't it by a huge developer?
Yes, well, it was, but as the type of game, I mean, but in the PS kind of ecosystem with their PS Plus, that's not really what's going on there. And they're not looking for. Well, I suppose they did have Chia recently, but I don't know. Like, it's obviously not their focus, and they're moving on.
It's probably why I do love Xbox way more than PlayStation. It's probably because, Xbox aren't afraid to put loads of games on Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass, so therefore I'm finding loads of little games that I've never heard of. I play them and I go, that was pretty good.
Well, Xbox do that a lot. They had Ravenlock and that Benedict Fox game. They both came out last week, so that's good. PlayStation do it. Like, obviously they had Stray. And I don't think these are made by PlayStation, but they're put on their service at least. Like, they've paid for them to be on the service, and they had Chia as well that just came out. So, they are looking after their service, but not as much as obviously the Xbox focus is to get these games on the service, and they're not made by Xbox either. But it's just sad times, isn't it? More studios being shut and people thinking strategically.
Yeah, that's it, and particularly with one that was trying to give young developers a chance. Sad to see it bite the dust without achieving much. Yeah.
Well, there is that point that it's less about buying IP when you're getting studios, and Sony are the master at this, where they're going out there and just buying studios with great developers, and they're just Sony and Microsoft and whoever are just trying to get good developers, because there's only a finite number kind of out there without developing newer young developers. But to have an in-house Sony studio or any of these big companies which is focusing on young developers, that can only be a good thing. So that it's a bit of a shame, but maybe they're going to do something else in the pipeline, who knows.
Yes, and with that, it's probably time for new releases, isn't it? And I'm really looking forward to this, Eddie.
Can we skip it?
No.
Right, guys, there are lots of games coming out. If you type in games release next week, then there you go. The problem with me doing the new releases section this week, I'll let you know now, because you normally really expect amazing work from me here, is I do not care for the games. I bet even some of these games I might actually quite like, but I hate them. I hate all of them.
That's why I'm really looking forward to you giving some verve to the blurbs. Really,
you may notice all of my notes are one. I mean, one of them I've just put Lemmings. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all my notes.
Yes, I see that.
We'll get to that one, gents. We'll get to that. Right, first one. Another Fisherman's Tale coming out on PC VR, PSVR 2, and Quest 2, May 11th. Another Fisherman's Tale, sequel to the award-winning A Fisherman's Tale, is a new mind-bending VR puzzle adventure. Not game. Just puzzle adventure. A poetic story with unique VR puzzle mechanics. Detach, replace, and control your hands, solve puzzles, explore new locations, and discover the truth. So yeah, it's a VR puzzle game where like you take off your hands and do shit. The visuals are okay, and I have nothing more to say on it.
I think that's fair enough, to be honest.
It's a sequel.
It's a sequel, so it must be good, right, man?
Yeah,
does that still count in VR? I don't know.
Someone's backing it, so I say fair play to them.
It's award winning.
Okay.
It's one of those things that I'm not sure who actively is looking at this for the first time and going, "Oh, I need to play that." But you know, puzzle games in VR, they might be quite good. I don't know. So yeah, we're not VR people, so
yeah, detachable, controllable hands. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but
it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad.
It doesn't look that bad, no. Anyway.
Right, let's move on to TT, Isle of Man. What does TT stand for? I should look that up.
I did know this.
TT.
Tourist Trophy.
Oh, really?
Tourist Trophy. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, there you go. TT, Isle of Man, Ride on the Edge 3, coming out on PC. Wait, 3? Has there been 3 on the Isle of Man? Eddie, you should look these things up before the podcast. PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, May 11th. An iconic course for motorbike fans. 200 kilometres of open road to practice on. Fuck, I can't even read now. Challenging physics, a simulation for the best riders. So yeah, it's a motorbike racing game, but it's like on the streets, like Forza Horizon. Was that the one that was on the streets? Forza?
Yeah.
There's a career mode, there's online multiplayer, and you have like weekly and monthly races as well. And I will say now, like fucking all racing games, the visuals look fucking gorgeous.
They do.
Like, even riding through the streets just looks absolutely beautiful.
They make the Isle of Man look nice. Yeah.
These games do quite well, I think. It doesn't look as good as... Have you seen Ride 4 on like PS4, PS5 or whatever?
I think I have, yeah.
That game looks like insane. Like, looks amazing. It looks like basically real life. When you're playing the first.
I think all of them look like the Forza games. I remember when I first loaded up Forza Horizon at my parents' house on the big TV, and I was like, "Fucking hell, this looks fantastic."
Yeah, it does. They do look good. They're not playing.
And don't get me started on picture mode, Ben.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah, exactly. I've already been on Twitter about that.
Too pissed off to comment. All right, fine. Would you play this if
If it was put in front of me, I would.
I think I would as well.
I quite like the idea of one of these types of games, and since ever I ride 4. But the thing about racing games, they really have to have everything. They have to have the career mode. They have to have the progression stuff. And I'm really hoping that Forza Motorsport 7, the new one that's going to be coming out, is one, because GT7 didn't quite do it for me last year. It wasn't quite what I was after. Though I could go back. I always think to myself, I should load that back up and start playing that again, because I did enjoy it when I was playing it.
When I'm into a racing game, I actually really I would never say this around Kirk, but I do really enjoy it. Like, I remember, about 10 years ago, I was playing one of the Forzas, and I fucking loved it. Like, every night I'd be, I can't wait to get on, I'd play, and I'd race, and I'd put the time up on my wall and stuff. I used to fucking love it, but I've tried to dip into all these racing games since, and every time, like the latest Forza, I was furious that all the cars are matched to your car level.
Yeah, I know. That's such a... For me, like, the Forza Horizon games, like, they look great, and they're great for dissing about. I think when I played it, I said to Kirk, like... what's the point in it? We had this big discussion about what's the point, and it was just like, it's just to have fun. Okay, right, fine, I accept that, and I did have fun with it. I played it for like 15 hours or so, but then like But it was the case of like, what's the point? So I get a better car, but then everyone else gets a better car. Okay, I can.
It was almost yeah.
It's like on GT7 as well, where like I suppose GT7 is a bit better because it's like you try to race in a class. So let's say you've got a B class of category of cars that you're having a race for. Yeah. You want to get. You want to upgrade it so it's the top of that class, but it doesn't put it into the next class and all this kind of stuff. So there is stuff there. So I prefer that. I prefer just a bit more purpose to all this stuff.
It's almost like the Forza games for me now. Is the first 2 hours is fantastic, but then there's no like, oh, I can't wait to log on tomorrow, because it's not like I'm aiming for anything. It's just...
No, it's my board game. It's a board game. It's like I'm bored. What do I put on?
I'm bored. I've got 5 minutes before, the missus shouts at me for gaming, so I'll just log on and play it for 5 minutes. Yeah. Right, let's move on to the biggie. The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, coming out on Switch May 12th, that one. An epic adventure across the land and skies of... Oh, fuck me. Hyrule. Thank you, Ben. Jeez, I thought you were going to let me struggle there, because I was going to say something weird.
I wish you hadn't ruined that then.
I
didn't want him to embarrass himself and also this podcast.
Yeah, because this means a lot to you, and you didn't want that. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Skies of Hyrule awaits in The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom for Nintendo Switch. Very good. Thank you. It's a Zelda game. It looks fucking gorgeous. Ben, talk to me.
I think we've had so many. It went for such a long period of time where there was no marketing on this game. Like I thought, like, nothing. What the fuck is going on? And then out of just nowhere, it's just been like, it's been press thing after press thing. We had the previews, we had the gameplay, we had the little Nintendo Direct. And then the slight bit of commentary that people are putting out there, like reviewers that are playing it. I've heard it's just. Yeah, I mean, as I said, Breath of the Wild got 97. There's only five games to get a 97 over this generation or last generation. There's Mario Odyssey, there's Red Dead Redemption 2, GTA 5, and Disco Elysium Final Cut. But Breath of the Wild is there as well. And Breath of the Wild, like, as open world games go, is just up there. It's one of those where you just get lost in it. You're not worried about doing the story necessarily or anything. You just eating that game for a while. So I can't wait for this, because it's a different way of playing games. Like, I didn't play the first one with a view of completing it. I did complete it, but you don't play it with that view, if you know what I mean. And even after I completed it, I still did the extra stuff like that I didn't even know about. And then you just read online. You're like, oh, you can build your own town. Okay, well, go to that place and do that.
Sorry?
Yeah. And then when you set up the town and built it all, and there's now a trader there, and then he can sell you this armor suit that you
Holy
couldn't
shit!
have got.
I'm buying a Switch.
And like, there's just like a maze in like the top left corner of the map or something, which I hadn't heard of. And then it's just like, oh yeah, if you go up there and then stand on this tallest cliff and then just fly north, you'll eventually get to a small little island which has a maze, and in there is like another different type of armor suit. Oh fucking hell! All right, like it's just brilliant. Like, I so impressed with the first one. It was a game that got me right back into gaming and handheld gaming. And this one's gonna do the same, I'm sure. So
is it day one then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
the sigh.
But the thing is, it's Diablo beta weekend next weekend as well.
It is.
Which I wanted to do to beat the boss, to then get whatever trophy mount it is or whatever, just to say that I've done it. But with Tears of the Kingdom being out, I'm probably gonna have to play that on the sofa while my girlfriend's playing Diablo 4, and I'm not gonna get involved. So
sad times.
Maybe I could dual wield over that weekend. I don't know. I'll see next week when I'm talking about it.
Or maybe you could just remember that you'll have purchased Zelda, so you can play it whenever. Whereas you can only play Diablo that weekend until June.
Pete, decisions.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Decisions.
Right, let's move on to Humanity, coming out on PC, PlayStation, PSVR 2, May... I'm PSVR as well. May 16th. A unique blend of puzzle solving and action platforming. Play alone Shiba Inu.
Nice.
Charged with... Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Wow, fucking hell, I need to be drunk more often. Charged with commanding massive marching crowds to the goal in story mode, or browse a wide... Do you know, I'm so bad, I'm so ill, that I see words as just individual words. Have you noticed with my reading? I'm not seeing these as sentences, I'm saying a word as if it's a word.
Yeah, you
like,
are.
It has no meaning to me.
As you reach it. Yeah.
Yeah. It has no meaning to me. I'm just saying words that appear in my face. Browse a wide array of user-made levels crafted by the in-game stage creator. Whew.
Okay.
So this is Lemmings, and that's not me shitting on it. I think this absolutely looks stunning. But I've got a question. A, haven't we seen this somewhere before?
We have, yeah.
And B, has Donnie played this? Is this the one that Donnie played and he said he quite liked it? Is that right?
So it was at the PSVR show.
That's where I've seen it.
And there was a demo as well. And that demo was available on PlayStation as well as PSVR 1 and 2, I think. So I think somebody, or maybe I think it was Donnie talking about Craig had played it.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think there's something. Yeah, I mean it looks good for these types of games for sure, and having it in VR is very cool. There's a part of Ratchet and Clank, the new one, where I think it's Ratchet and Clank, where you have like this Lemmings type thing, and you have to do it multiple times to solve puzzles.
Right.
And it's the most annoying fucking shit in the world, and I could never play a game of it. So I'm out. But looks good.
It does look good. I also would not play it, but for those who like this, it looks great.
I might play this.
I hope you do.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear if it's good.
Yeah.
I think there's a demo on Steam probably.
Won't get that far. Let's move on to Tin Hearts, coming out on... Well, it's a non-Switch release. It's coming out May 16th, that one. It's like a puzzle platform where you're a little tin.
Did we talk about it a few weeks?
Yeah, it came out a couple of weeks ago on Switch.
Yeah.
Fair one.
Yeah, which is why the blurb got immediately cut as well.
So check out a random former podcast if you want to hear about
that. Exactly, yes. It's, I mean, what did we say? It was a bit similar to Tinykin.
Oh, yeah,
similar
we
gameplay
did.
loop to Tinykin by the look of it.
Yeah, it looked like it could be, yeah. Like a
Tinykin,
realistic
I thought was actually really good. Makes me sick saying that, but...
Okay. You were anyway, so that's fine.
There you go, perfect. That explains the vomit in my mouth. Right, next one. Trinity Trigger. That's a bad name. Coming out on PlayStation and Switch, May 16th. Caught in the middle of a divine, clash of epic proportions that has left gigantic weapons towering over the landscape. Cyan?
Sure.
Cyan? Yeah, Cyan. Yeah. Cyan, a newfound allies. Come on, Eddie, keep it together, man. Elisa and Xantis set out on a quest to save the world and defy the gods. Claim your fate in this fantastical adventure inspired by classic RPGs.
JRPGs.
Yeah. JRPGs.
Did I say RPG? Oh, I lasted that long, Eddie.
The good bit is, by the way, you didn't really need to do the blurb on this one either, because it also came out a few weeks ago.
Exactly, it did come out a few weeks ago. Yeah.
It came out on Xbox and I think PC a few weeks back while you were off. I talked about it, and my immediate review was, this is literally just the most bog standard JRPG you've ever seen.
That's cool.
It's actually...
Because I was going to say that, sorry.
Since then, it's I have heard some good things about it. But yeah, being called any JRPG which has trigger in the name, you know exactly what this is before you even start. So anything you're imagining, it is that game.
Yes.
Fair enough. Right, let's move on to everyone's game of the week. Zool Redimensioned. Redimensioned? Is that a word?
I think it'd be redimensioned.
I think, yeah.
Oh, right. It's because I'm saying it wrong. Coming out... Oh, no. It's coming out on PlayStation only. May 16th.
PlayStation 4.
Yeah. It's already out on PC and has been for ages.
Furiously that you can't play it.
Yeah. It's been out for 2 years on PC.
Oh, my God, yes. Yeah, well, let me talk about it and then I'll get excited. The Ninja of the... You know what? I'm not going to do the blurb. I'm not going to do the blurb.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. fucking make me. It's Zool. Did you guys play this?
You can't just say the name again. It's the name.
It's Zool. Do you remember this, Ben?
No,
Pete, help me out.
I do remember
Thank
this,
you.
yes.
So Zool, to our listeners, there you go, Ben. I'm moving on. Was a game, and I had to look this up. Came out in 1992. It's like a. Oh, it's just an absolute.
Is he a ninja from the nth dimension?
He is, Ben. He is, Ben.
Right. Do you get to explore vibrant retro landscapes?
You too, Ben.
Discover hidden secrets and take down menacing bosses in a modern reimagining of the classic action platforming adventure Zool.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mouthful when it's weird that you would ask me that question. But yes, yes, and yes.
Okay, good. I'm all in now.
We're all in. I can't believe that. Honestly, when I opened this up and I went, holy shit, I used to play the shit out of this when I was a kid. I mean, a bit weird because I would have been 4. Yeah. So, I don't know how I have such vivid memories of it, but fuck me, yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you weren't banging onto your parents at 4 to get it day 1 though, so you might have played it later on. I want Zool. Zool. His first words. Zool.
Zool. I want to play Zool.
Eddie's first words at 4 as well. Come on.
All right, 5 maybe. You had to wait till he's 5.
No, my parents actually took me to the hospital because they thought there was something wrong with me.
Why did they leave without exploring that?
Because the doctors went, no.
I think they got sold a dummy. Mate.
They went twice, actually, because they went like a year later and went, he's still not moving.
Doesn't surprise me.
He's not doing anything. We think there's something wrong. Can you check him? There's nothing wrong with him.
Okay.
He's just a lazy boy.
Did they go after a bank holiday and it actually turned out the doctor was just really hungover?
There we go. Thank you. Or maybe I was hungover and I just couldn't be asked to do anything because I was dying. There you go. Yeah, I love this. I can't believe it's actually out on PC. I've just added it to my wish list because £8 a little bit steep for me. But
of course.
Yeah, so with a week of The Legend of Zelda, there's only one pick for Game of the Week, and of course that's Zool.
Yes. Yeah, by the sounds of it, absolutely.
Yeah, fuck Zelda.
Respect. Nobody thought that would happen, but fine.
Let's see how the reviews pan out, Ben. That's the real question. Again, Zool's been out for 2 years. The reviews are well established at this point. But it has at least...
It has 99 reviews on Steam, and it's very positive.
Very positive.
I mean, Zelda has
96% of people are positive about this game on Steam.
Yeah.
There you go.
We'll see if that compares to Tears of the Kingdom, whether that gets 96 or more. That'll be interesting.
One of the reviews say, I feel like I smoked something forbidden. I don't know what that means. But
Good.
There you go.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well, other than that, guys, shall we move on to what we've been playing?
Yeah, let's do that. I'll kick us off with an update on Jedi Survivor, because Donnie and I were talking about that last week. Donnie was a lot further through than I was. So I've played a load this week, and it's superb. This game is absolutely brilliant. It's so much better than the last one. My advice to anybody who didn't finish or not really wanted to get into the franchise, I'd say play the second one over the first one, because it's just a better fucking game.
Okay.
The story's really good. The combat is excellent. I'll come on to it. The puzzles, traversal, it all adds up, and it's all excellent. It does make me question, because this is very much a game. You know, we've talked about this before, where some games try to pretend like they're not games, but then they're very limited by what they're putting in front of you. And one of those examples was God of War, which we talked about last year, where they have these killer cutscenes, these amazing sequences, and they're trying to get really in depth with the characters, all this stuff, and then the actual gameplay is so hamstrung by the actual just it being a game and everything's the same. You go these ledges over here and do that. This is the same type of thing in a way, but I don't have a problem with it. And that might be because I like the Star Wars franchise more. It might be because they're not trying to do these epic CGI cutscenes. Well, not CGI, God of War's like in-game engine or whatever. These epic like cutscenes and stuff. And it's just everything flows a bit better. Everything's just a bit more natural. And even like the puzzles and the climbing and everything, which is a bit Uncharted, not gonna lie. It is still very Star Wars. You'd see this in the films, for fuck's sake. Like, It is. It does all work very, very well. One of the things we talked about last week was that it didn't look very good.
Yeah.
It still doesn't look very good, but the patch has improved things. The frame rate is improved, I think. I have mostly been playing on the Steam Deck, so remote playing it to the Steam Deck, and because it looks better on my Steam Deck than it does when I play it on a monitor or TV.
Well, yeah, okay, makes sense.
But yeah, so I think it has improved slightly, but I would still not call this a good-looking game. But that's just me. It's definitely easier than the first one, I'd say. The last boss that I've just done was very challenging, and it took me like 4 attempts. But everything else, it's generally first or perhaps second try kind of thing. And the fact that I have been playing on Steam Deck does confirm the fact that it is a little easier. So I'm just playing on normal mode, which I think a lot of people say that it's quite difficult. I can play that on the Steam Deck, and I generally have a bit more of trouble playing on the Steam Deck controller as opposed to like on the Xbox. But this last boss, I had to switch back to my monitor to play with the Xbox controller and then I did it first time. It's just that on the Steam Deck I couldn't quite do it. But that's a general indication that the game is a nice difficulty. I think that if you can play it on like the Steam Deck. The story itself is interesting. Cal is actually a likable character, dare I say.
Cool. That's rare.
They've done a lot with him. It's not the usual trope. It's not the usual Star Wars light and dark stuff. It's got a bit more to it, I think, and I think that's a nice direction. It starts you off with quite a lot of the skills I've heard for the combat skills that you end with the last game. You get them basically from the start, and you get them fairly early on anyway. Yeah. And then it starts to add things in just very naturally, like the new stances, like the ability to traverse the world, things like that. It just naturally adds them into the game, and it's always giving you something else, and that's great. And in that respect, it's like a Metroidvania because it does give you extra options to traverse or get in places, and then you'll be able to go back to that place over there and then get in somewhere.
Question then, before we move on. Is it less, like that traversal was something I actually really hated in the first game. Is it smoother and a bit more natural this time?
The traversal is very natural. It is smoother. It's very much a 50-50 part of the game though, or even 60-40 for traversal. Like the combat breaks up nicely the traversal pieces, but I do think the traversing is excellent, and some of the sequences that you do are just it just puts everything on quite a grand scale, and some of like the set pieces to get away from things that they're really put together so well with the traversal mechanics that you've learnt in the game, and you feel pretty good doing them, and then that's mixed in with that combat.
Yep.
So you'll do like a little traversal session, then it'll be the combat, and the combat is so impactful. That lightsaber feels like a fucking lightsaber, and very, very few Star Wars games have ever come close to that. What was that? Was that Jedi? It's on Xbox on Game Pass, I think. The one where we were like at university, it came out.
Oh, with Starkiller and Vader. Do you mean that one, Vader's Apprentice?
Yes, Vader's Apprentice. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
No, what's the game called though? Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed. Yeah, Force Unleashed. I thought was excellent. That was the best use of the Force I've seen. Force Unleashed was the best, like Force wielding stuff. This isn't quite as good on that front, but the lightsaber in it is so good. Like it like you feel when a couple of boss fights, when you actually fight like a Jedi.
Yeah.
And it's just really well done. It works because it's got a block meter like in Sekiro, whatever, where you're trying to get the person's block meter to 0, then you can do damage. Cool. It's just really, really good. It's just, it's so well done. The game as a whole is a mix of, like, you'll hear people talking reviews about this being a Souls game and a Metroidvania, like that kind of mixed together. And they are right in a conventional sense, but but it's neither of those games at the same time. Like, if you don't like Souls games, or you're scared of Soul games, or you hear that word Souls and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, okay, I can't do that. This is not that. It is not like that. The difficulty's not there. Like, the traversal, like, it's just not, it's completely different to that. The combat itself is less precise than Souls games as well. Like, Souls games are, like, very methodical with their combat. And the difficulty in this game is usually where you just are overwhelmed by a number of of enemies, like, rather than it necessarily being patterns that you have to learn with like bosses or whatever. It's not generally. There's more bosses. They're easier to do. It's not stereotypically what you'd think of in terms of that side of a Souls game. But the actual elements of like bonfires and that's, yes, it's in here, and respawning of enemies, yes, it's in here, but it's really not a Souls game. In my mind. And as a Metroidvania, Metroidvanias where you like unlock an ability and it's like, so like an Ori or whatever, and then you have to remember, oh, I could go back there and do that thing to open up that area. This again is not like that as far as I've played, which I'm halfway through the game, or over halfway, and it's pretty linear. Like, you can make a choice of going to this world or this world, but the game is pretty linear as far as I can see in like areas. Yes, you can do a little bit of side stuff. There's some rumors and all that, but if you want it to be a completely linear game and not have to think, and the game will just tell you where to go. Like, it's really, really good like that. But the only thing with the telling you where to go, the mini map, there is not a mini map. So the UI is very clean, but there's no mini map, which means that you have to load up your map all the time to just check you're going in the right direction and where to go next and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's my only criticism is that I'd love to be able to, and I assume this is not in the settings, that you can turn on a little mini map to use. That would have been nice. But
I assume you checked before you committed to that statement.
I've heard other people talk about it as well, though.
Right. Okay.
So I have not checked, but but I'm pretty sure there is no mini map you can turn on. So, but overall, the game is absolutely fantastic.
Okay.
I don't regret it. I don't regret paying full whack for this at all. Like, this is superb, especially since Redfall has not been something that I've been playing. This is absolutely fantastic. And it's great to jump in with as well. Just jump in, jump out, because, it is just about doing a little bit of progress at one time, or you can sit down for hours at a time and play it. Like, yeah, absolutely love this game so far.
Excellent. It does always make me tempted to get it,
Yeah, because you like Star Wars games, Pete. I'm surprised you haven't already delved in already. Yeah.
Well, that tells you how much I dislike the traversal and the map in the first game.
Yeah, the map isn't the map is so much. The map is so much better. Like, so much better. I've had no issues at all.
You said last week that it's one of the best maps, didn't you? You said it's amazing.
What I like about it is that you can immediately tell where to go. Like, it's so clear. Oh, right. So, like, if I can't see in the what's around me, I just click the map, and then you go, okay, the map clearly shows that I can just go up this ledge and up here. It's just very simple.
Okay.
And I don't want to have to think too hard on this stuff. Like, it's thinking too hard on where to go next is my pet hate in a game. Like, give me a puzzle, something that I have to think about, fine, but not just where I have to fucking look left or right.
I'm the opposite. I wish there was no maps on any games, and I wish it was all word of mouth. So I wish someone went like, "Oh, go into the
That's
south."
Fucking Elden Ring, man. That's Elden
There
Ring.
you go.
Yeah. Just go in that direction. Okay. Right,
you'll find it.
Yeah. Elden Ring is just, there's a place somewhere. Okay. Are you going to put that in my notebook? No, you've got no notebook. Okay.
But you know what's sad?
cool.
I can't believe I've said that, but I'm going massively against my word now. My problem is, the first thing I do is look online. I know I shouldn't. I know I should play the game, but I don't. I just go.
It's part of the enjoyment, though. It's part of the enjoyment to, like... Yeah.
What I liked particularly about Elden Ring, though, was the NPCs didn't seem like they cared if you found it or not.
No.
They'd just be like, it's somewhere over there. Leave me alone. Okay, right, yeah. Cool.
But
thanks, bro.
But also, like, these side quests in Elden Ring, they're borderline. Like, to call them side quests is almost ridiculous.
Yes.
Like, they're not side quests. They're just random utterances that you then go somewhere, and it doesn't give you you've completed this thing. You never know whether you've done it or not.
Well, but on the other end of the extreme, then some of them are intrinsically linked into the game, but you wouldn't.
Yes,
know
absolutely. Yeah, like Rani stuff and everything. Yeah, absolutely. But you don't know it. You don't know what's important, what's not.
Yes. Anyway, we've digressed quite significantly, as we generally do. So I feel I should move us on. And I have played. I mean, it feels unfair to call it that. I dabbled in Clanfolk. Do you remember this one?
Oh yeah, I've got a wish list speak.
Yeah, I
do remember Clanfolk.
It came up on sale, Eddie. That's why I just went, yeah, why not? It's not a huge discount. It's still over £10. So I assume
Whoa, fuck me. Why would you say that?
But yeah, this is a RimWorld clone that came out last July from a developer called MinMax. It's set in a medieval version of the Scottish Highlands. And it is obviously a survival base builder type game. If you are unaware after 100 and something episodes of us talking about RimWorld. Survival city builder is probably the easiest way to call it. So it's really pretty, it's really atmospheric for this type of game. The graphics are slightly less clean than RimWorld, but more in keeping with what it's trying to achieve.
Fuck off, Pete. It is fucking RimWorld. What are you talking about?
No,
it's
Eddie,
identical to RimWorld.
Eddie, if you load it up, like the way they've done the textures and things are very different.
Okay.
Obviously, the way you build it, like it's still divided up into squares.
I see what you mean.
But the textures are very different. And things like with fire, it actually, I think, is a big improvement the way they do fire in this. However, there is a problem with games like this, which is I got about an hour in, I was enjoying it enough, and I suddenly went, but I could be playing RimWorld. And since then, I've been playing RimWorld.
How many times have I said that?
This game looks great, though.
It does, and it is quite enjoyable even from the beginning. But it's when you start to realise you've got a learning curve and a new one.
Oh, yeah, learning curves.
I just kind of went, I could just be playing RimWorld, and that's kind of what I want. And then
I said this a while ago on this very podcast. I said, the problem is, I don't think I'm ever going to play a game and go, this is better than RimWorld, because I need a game that's really detailed. But as soon as I start playing a colony management game that's really detailed, I go, oh, you could just be playing RimWorld. So I go and play RimWorld. So it's indestructible. It's always going to be the top.
And the worst bit is, if you want to play a RimWorld set in the Scottish Highlands, there are mods for that.
There are mods!
You can literally do that so fast. It's ridiculous. And I will go back to this at some point. That's the point of purchasing it. But the first hour was good enough that it just made me go, yeah, I could play RimWorld again. Nice.
You know what? I could get back into RimWorld.
Exactly, yeah. Which I feel is a shame. So I will come back to Clanfolk and do it justice, I'm sure, at some stage. But for now, it's just made me spend most of the bank holiday weekend playing RimWorld.
Excellent. Okay, cool.
I think it actually looks quite good.
It does look really nice.
Yeah. I will say, from what I played, it was very promising.
I can't believe it. I think it's because when I've done research on it, I haven't really looked in depth into the look of it. But you are right. It's got a little bit of polish, even the furniture and stuff. It does look.
Yeah, it's just textured differently. So it's it is less clean. Sometimes it can look a bit sort of. Like there's too much on your screen in comparison to RimWorld.
I see.
Yeah,
but
the water looks amazing.
Yes, it does. The fire does too. And it also really fits with that sort of medieval Scotland look they're going for.
Yeah.
I also did like the fact that the first time you play, you start as a family of 6 or 7. So there's 2 kids, 2 adults, and 2 elders.
Oh, cool.
I thought that was quite a good way of doing it as well. That gave you a nice sort of balance of priorities. But again, only played an hour because I just went, yeah, I'm in the mood for RimWorld.
Yeah.
I saw RimWorld had a 20% off the other day.
I
thought that's as good as it's going to get, isn't it?
I'm actually offended by that. That's
I'm
devaluing my purchase.
Yeah, I saw 20%. I was like, you know what, Ben? If you're ever going to buy this,
this is the biggest sale RimWorld has ever had in its
history.
I still haven't got biotech. I mean, I should sort of.
Nah, neither have I, Pete. It doesn't. Yeah. There are mods. Just remember, there are free mods. There you go. Yes. Right, I'll take us on to Endzone Worlds Apart. You heard of this one?
No.
Yeah, not many people have. The developer are Gently Mad Studios, great name, and it came out in March 2021. It is another city builder.
Oh, that's a surprise.
Yeah, I'm totally taken aback.
What's the setting, Eddie? What's the setting?
It's, I mean, you know this, Ben, because last week I said I bought 2 games that are city builders in post-apocalyptic world. So you're just rubbing it in, aren't you?
When do you not play a post-apocalyptic city builder?
I love post-apocalyptic games. I love it. It doesn't need to be a city builder, Ben. I could play, your Fallout.
It always is, though.
What was it a month ago? It was Stalker, wasn't it?
Oh,
Stalker.
yeah.
Lovely. In fact, I've been looking at Metro recently. Lovely. I just want the world to burn. Is that too much to ask? So this is a city builder set in a post-apocalyptic world. So it's pretty much identical to the one that I talked about last week. I've even forgotten the name.
Aftermath. That is Surviving the Aftermath.
Surviving the Aftermath, which was a Paradox one. Pete, did you hear my review on that game?
I haven't actually listened to last week's
I
episode.
would go back, have a listen, because I think you'd fucking love it. But
that is on my wish list. Yeah.
Saying that, this game, I mean, that's a Paradox, Pete, so you love a Paradox game. But this game it's identical in so many ways. So same with the loads of resources. Obviously, it's a city builder. You have all you can assign how many jobs to what thing. It's got scenarios pop up where someone's come along, just like the other game. You have research in this game, so to get better things and whatnot. The only thing that I can think of that's different, I mean, it looks very different, and also the weather's quite cool. Like, you can see, it's like almost like a real life satellite where you can see the radiation clouds are coming to certain bits, and so that will change about where you want to build stuff. So that's quite cool. But that is literally the only difference. However, this game, I don't know what it is. I think it's like the kind of UI and the look of it, and the more detail of this game. It's the only way I can describe it is this feels like a PC game to me, like an indie PC game, while Surviving the Aftermath almost feels like a console game. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense to either of you. Well, I think what I'm trying to say is, like, this game feels like a game that you could just play forever on your PC, a little indie game, and just keep on building until you have the biggest civilization ever. Right. While the other game, Surviving the Aftermath, felt like it was more based on your, what do they call them, specialists, where and you did want to progress the story. You wanted to, like, kind of eventually get along that road. While this game feels like, no, that you don't want to follow these stories and things that people keep on telling you. You just want to focus on building up your place. The problem I have with this is it feels so much more real than the other game, and that the problem with that is it's quite sad because it's it's a weird way of looking at it, but like it's post-apocalyptic, so it's like dark and dreary, and the problem is like that the amount of times I've logged on and played it this week, and I've gone like, oh, shall I just I'll play one game of Rocket League just to cheer myself up, and then I've gone back to it, which isn't great. To be honest, I think I made a mistake of buying 2 identical games at the same time, because like you find yourself comparing it, and I'm all city buildered out. I've played the shit. Issue. Yeah, I played the shit out of the other one, and now I've played the shit out of this, and now I downloaded FIFA.
Oh God!
I know. How bad's that? That's how sad I am.
Yeah.
Well, Eddie, what's that game that was recommended? The Far World. What's it called? The one that's like Starbound.
I think that comes out on the 23rd, doesn't it, of May?
Yeah, so you could go back to that on Game Pass.
I've got a couple of weeks of playing FIFA. Dare I say it? But
God.
Wow. Let's not commit too soon to such a decision. But
there you go. It's been downloaded. I played one game and I got angry. So hopefully that'll be gone. But
we're gonna have to pick up our Warzone game then in the meantime, aren't we?
Ooh, there you go. Well, we got a win last night.
We got a win last night, didn't we?
There you go. To celebrate,
and a second place. Yes, you did. Yeah.
You just wanted to talk about that, didn't you guys? You just wanted to bring that in somehow.
Well, we are winners. And last night when we sat down to play Warzone, we went. Jack said, should we actually try to win tonight? Okay, we'll try to win. So then we did. I mean, just... there we go. You've got to try to win.
It might say a lot that Jack, by far the most aggressive of our players, he was actually having his dinner when we won that game.
Yeah, so he was just stuffing his face.
I think that says a lot that maybe Jack's aggressive play might be the reason why we don't win more games.
Well, it is the reason, Eddie. It is clearly the reason, because Jack went, we're going to win tonight, so I'm going to try and play differently. Yeah. Okay, you're going to play your life. You're going to actually try... Right,
you're not going to charge into an open field to get one kill.
So now we've got an extra player. Okay, cool. Right.
That kind of ruins it.
Ben, we did win with me and you versus the rest of the team, so let's not...
Yes, it didn't change things materially.
The outcome.
We've digressed again.
Oh, sorry. Apologies.
We're on for an hour and a half podcast, guys.
I know.
Wow.
I'm terrified.
All it takes is for me to be close to death.
Yeah. If you could repeat this trick next week, that would be excellent, Eddie. Thank you.
I will not. It's not a bank holiday, so no.
We might just vary our recording nights to catch whenever Eddie is most hungover.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Like Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Let's do that.
No, we want you hungover, not still.
I was going to say, I'll still be out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll do it from Skype on my phone.
Recording live from Wetherspoons, somewhere in the southwest. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, digressed again. Damn it. Stop it. Right. I feel it's time for the feature, don't you, gents?
Yep, let's do that.
Let's do that. And as we said at the beginning, this feature is on games that deserve a sequel, but obviously haven't got one. So I think we've all brought at least a couple. And I think it's probably... Let's give like a quick indication of why, and we can dive into whichever ones are most interesting. Does that sound like a good option?
Oh, so you want us to do our three and then...
Have we all got three? Oh, I added a third. Yes. Yeah, let's do it that way.
Should we just list our three then? Okay, then we can dive into... Okay, fine. Well, I mean, this is actually quite hard to think about, wasn't it? Because Pete, when we came up with this feature, you're like, oh God, like, actually, this is harder than you think to come up with some. But but here we are. First one is Eternal Darkness from the GameCube. Wish that one in a second. Second one is Bloodborne. Not that I'm a particular fan of Bloodborne, but Bloodborne 2 would be epic in terms of the FromSoft games. And the third one is New Star Manager. The football management
game. What belter. Yeah.
Yeah, it is
a belter.
I
remember that one, yeah.
It's a fucking belter.
Very
interesting options. Eddie, what about you?
I brought to the table Project Zomboid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Banished. Nice little city builder. There you go. And hear me out here. I put RimWorld. But I put RimWorld because I thought, you can't go through a whole podcast without mentioning RimWorld. But obviously we've already talked about it, so I apologise for that.
Okay. That seems legitimate. And I've brought Jade Empire.
Yep.
If everyone remembers that. Vagrant Story, because of course I did. Shut up, I'm going to talk about Vagrant Story. And the last one, I forgot I added this. I did mostly because I realised I talked about this on Deadbeat Punk's podcast.
You did, yeah.
A little while back, which is, of course, What the Fuck Do You Want? And what I said I wanted was a sequel to Medieval Total War 2. So, even though it is itself a sequel, it's in there.
I'm going to say something a little embarrassing. I did initially write Shogun Total War. I remember there was actually a sequel to Shogun
and it's actually pretty good as well, yes.
Yeah. So I delete, put RimWorld.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with the RimWorld.
I will be honest, I don't think we need to talk about RimWorld here. I don't think we really need to talk about Medieval Total War 2. If you want to hear my feelings on a Total War 3 for that one, then go listen to Deadbeat Punk's podcast.
Very good, yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
wow.
Right. Yeah, I think that'll work very well. And I'm unhappy to say it, but I think I've obviously fought the case for Vagrant Story enough over time.
Yes, that was a good game.
It's a brilliant game. It's completely unique in the way it approaches things. Yeah, it definitely deserves a sequel and a remake as soon as possible. But there's other options here. And I think Eternal Darkness is a really good starting point, Ben.
Yeah, Eternal Darkness was one of those that at the time, I do remember playing this with a friend. We kind of did levels, or I think it was like eras that you go through, and we passed the controller between ourselves for doing each one. And it was it was around that time when like Kojima was getting like a lot of praise with psychological games, and when Metal Gear Solid 2 came out and stuff like that. Eternal Darkness came out, I think it was 2002, and it's a horror game where strange things would happen, like that you wouldn't know whether it was part of the game or not part of the game. So like enemies would appear out of nowhere, you wouldn't know if they're real, and then it would just flash, and then you'd be back in reality, and they were never there. Your head might pop off and just be going around the screen when you're trying to do it, because you had a sanity meter, I think you did.
You did,
so,
yeah. This
and
was
like,
the one with sanity effects as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it had like game corruption and all this kind of stuff. Like it was just a real innovative way. Now, one of the reasons why I think there hasn't been a sequel is probably because, well, there's been quite a bit of time. It's been 20 years. A lot of that fan base has obviously moved on. There's probably not enough there. And secondly, it's very hard to do that type of thing in the modern modern
it's almost
gaming.
too meta, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I understand why there isn't, but I do think that as an IP and as a franchise, I think the studio that made it have gone out of business, so I don't know who owns any of this stuff. So I don't even know if it's possible, but I'm sure somebody does, and it could be bought. But it is one of those where if at a Nintendo Direct, if they said Eternal Darkness was coming out as a even if it was a re-release, but if they were making another one, people would. I'd like to think there's a lot of YouTubers that would go crazy over it. Well, maybe people wouldn't vote with their wallet, but people would be into it for sure.
I suspect so. Yeah, I think that's a really good option, and it would be interesting to see what someone that creative could do.
Yeah,
in the modern era with the same sort of style.
Well, you've seen like Kojima, like how he now his creativity goes into it's adapted by going to, now obviously had PT and things like that, but he's now just gone into weird and wonderful different ways of presenting a game. Like, and I'm all for that, but you really need an intense creative to take that on.
Yes. Yeah, very fair. Yeah. A good choice. Okay. Eddie, which of your two remaining, not RimWorld, do you think most deserves a sequel?
It's difficult, right? Because I believe it or not, I actually did more research to this feature than the rest, and there are so many that like did deserving, like loads came up, like Bully, like that came up on nearly every single fucking list. Shadow of the Colossus came up a lot. Vagrant Story, Grim Fandango. To be fair, I was close to put that one in. I was like, that
fucking hell. When I played that back in the day, it was just too hard for me. Like I couldn't think outside the box on it. Like, do you know what I mean? Some of those puzzles are just so like fucking out there. I couldn't do that as a kid. I was fucking lost. Great premise, incredible premise, but no.
But yeah, to be honest with you, then I went down the fuck you route and went, no, I'm going to do games that I think deserve a sequel, and that's where I came up with Project Zomboid, because
Nice.
I thought it was a fantastic game. Like I chucked hundreds of hours. What was the standard line? Is it 1,000 hours?
1,000 hours. Yeah, you measure it in thousands.
Yeah, 1,000 hours into it. But it's one of those that I just think if there are a few things missing from the game. Like I feel like there wasn't much longevity to the game, in my personal opinion. I know that people do go crazy and build huge things and like have a fucking castle basically.
Live forever, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and live forever. But I just feel like if they had a sequel to it, I think they could develop way more on, building with, for example, like having more people, like I don't know, like a multiplayer element. I also think, obviously, Project Zomboid is not the sexiest looking game. I think we could all agree that. Yeah.
For those that don't know what Project Zomboid is, it's like a survival game where you're just put out there and then you just have to survive for the longest amount of time. So you loot houses, you loot buildings, and you get stuff. You're trying to not get eaten, obviously, but just surviving the most number of days in a run. That's right, isn't it, Eddie?
Yeah, exactly. It's just trying to survive forever, but it just gets harder and harder. Like after, I think it's like 6 days, the electric cuts out, and then after like 10 days, the water cuts out. So it was very much a survival game, and it was fucking hard. But yeah, I think developing on like the building and the engineering stuff would be really cool in a sequel. I think obviously making it look a bit better. I think if they made a sequel to it, I think it could be one of my favourite games ever.
I think, Eddie, you're bang on, because the one thing that they could make this game look better. That's one thing. They could add all that stuff in. I'm sure they've got loads of new ideas, and pop that thing on console.
Oh yeah,
because it's only PC, right?
Yeah.
You could pop that thing on console. There's no reason why this shouldn't work on console in my eyes. Like that, it's simplistic enough.
And Ben, even if they brought all the multiplayer element, you can imagine all the kids out there going home after school and all jumping online together in their little community.
Yeah, honestly, if this game looked a little sharper and it had pop that, get that on console.
Easily
get the second one out
as well. Yeah,
you think so? Yeah, I think that's an immense pick. I think that's great.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, and then I'm going to come to Jade Empire, because this was, the second one that came to mind after Vagrant Story, obviously. And it came to mind because it is one of those BioWare games that obviously I love, but it was so different to the others in certain ways. So it reuses the morality system from Knights of the Old Republic, which came before it. And obviously a lot of that carries through into the Mass Effect series later and the sequel to Knights of the Old Republic. But it was the combination of a really, at the time, really good dialogue system, a really good gameplay loop, and a setting which I know both me and Eddie really like inspired by ancient Chinese history and mythology. And I thought that came together really, really well. And I don't know, it's one of those games that just stands out for me as deserving better than it got, even though it reviewed really well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is one of those games that everyone talks about as wishing there was a second game. And people still talk about it to this day, but it's just not going to happen.
It's really not, is it? Like, it's. Wow. I don't see it as a possibility that it would ever get a sequel, but I think that in itself is a sad fact.
And as it also on Xbox, and I think it was only on Xbox.
It was exclusive upon release, yeah.
And it was JRPG as well. I mean, not often that we see Xbox being a home for a JRPG either. So, it's got a.
Is it more like a CRPG because it's Chinese? I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Is it
Chinese based?
Based. Never heard of a CRPG.
I'm just trying to think.
But it was Japanese developed, though, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Right. Yeah. Fine.
Fine.
But fine. But yeah, for people. Yeah, loads. I've never played Jade Empire. Never played it.
Oh my god, you really should have done. You would have loved it at the time.
Yeah, well, on that Xbox, I had KOTOR, but I came to that Xbox generation quite late, after KOTOR was released.
Of course,
but then I probably left. I didn't, and then
dive in here.
Yeah, didn't do it. So.
Well, that is a shame. I mean, you would do very well just by playing it even these days. It still doesn't look bad.
I don't know whether I like all those kind of. It's like meeting your hero. I just don't. I don't think games hold up today.
Fair enough.
It's like when I went back and played Oblivion. I was like, God, this used to be my favourite game ever. Oh,
can't.
Oh, dream ruined.
I will say on a massive digression. I saw. Do you remember Skywind, the mod that's trying to rebuild Morrowind in Skyrim?
Oh, of course,
yes.
Yeah, they released like an extra video of how far they've got, and it is looking really good.
Oh,
it's
cool.
Looking excellent. Still no release date. Skyrim came out over 10 years ago. Still no release date. But yeah, it's a huge job. Anyway, yet another digression. But I think all the ones we've mentioned there would be fantastic. I kind of understand what you mean about Bloodborne, Ben. I don't think we need to dive into that.
Not really going to dive in on that one.
But I am keen to hear more about New Style Manager. Go on.
New Style Manager is. It started out as a mobile game. I think, Eddie, maybe you played that on
mobile?
Yeah,
I played it. Don't you worry about that. Yeah, loved it.
I have it on Switch. And it's basically like a football manager game made up with fake players, but they've got like real teams in there, except for your New Star team. And it's a deck builder. And you play key moments in each match. Like you take control of the players.
Right.
On a very simplistic way, just dribbling, passing. Every time you pass the ball, it's like a stop-start, and when you start moving, everyone else moves, and it's just brilliantly done. I've put so many. It's one of my most played games on Switch. It's like a game. It's outstanding. Like I've got my team to the Premier League, top of the Premier League in Europe, all this type of stuff. Like it's got a surprising amount of depth to it. And if they announced a second game, I'd be there fucking day one. Honestly,
you would.
Great.
Do you know
absolutely superb.
Do you know my problem, Ben? Is I played this on mobile, and don't get me wrong, I thought it was absolutely fantastic, but I very much was aware I was playing a mobile game, so I didn't treat it as a game. I reckon.
I got Switch, baby. It's
this,
different.
Yeah. I reckon this says a lot about my mindset. But if I never knew it was a mobile game, and I
didn't. Yeah.
Oh yeah, brilliant. And I saw it on like Steam, and I bought it because I would probably fucking adore it, as in like play it non-stop. 1,000 hours, some might say. But unfortunately, I saw it as a mobile game. But yeah, if I had a Switch, fuck me, it's the perfect sit and watch maybe a movie in the background.
It is, game.
Eddie.
I think I haven't played it quite 1,000 hours. I think I've got 75 hours or something in it. But it's
cool.
But for this type of game, you never would have thought you get this type of longevity with that. If you have a Switch, if you're into games like Football Manager, but you just want something which is very casual and you can just play like whilst watching TV or something, New Star Manager is, and it will cost you like, I don't know, like £3 or something.
Yeah,
it's fucking dirt cheap. It's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You have inspired me to re-download it on my phone, Ben.
There you go. Yeah, can't go wrong.
Fantastic. Okay, and for the final one then, go on, Eddie. Tell us why Banished, a city-building strategy game. Like all of them.
There aren't enough of them.
There's not enough. What do you want? I want one more. No, I just think out of city builders, am I going to go this big? I think I'm going to go this big. I would say it's probably one of the best city builders ever.
You're still drunk.
One of was definitely a good case there, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. I couldn't say the best ever. I couldn't go that big. That's too big. Yeah, I thought they caught the atmosphere of the game absolutely perfectly. Not only like the look of it and the way you did feel like, oh, I'm back in the day and I really worry about people, but then the UI was fucking incredible. And you could bring up all these charts and stuff. So it really appealed to the nerdiness in me, because not only does it mean it's a casual game, if you wanted to treat it as such, you could, but then if you really want to get hardcore and look at all the the charts and figures and work out what's best, I absolutely loved it. I have always wanted, because I've tried going back and I just get bored pretty quickly, but I would love a Banished 2. Love it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Listen to devs, sort it out.
Okay. Sort it out. Excellent. Right, for the obvious massive misses we've made there, Ben, how would people let us know?
You can email us, podcast@grumpygamers.co.uk. You can tweet us @grumpygamerspod. And this is looking like under an hour and a half. And all it takes is a drunk or hungover Eddie and no content. And we can get it under an hour and a half.
I've gotten better. I feel like I've recovered. I think it's the adrenaline of the podcast. Because before I was leaning over my bin. Let's put it this way. So,
yeah.
There you go. Yeah. The podcast solves all.
There we go. Good stuff.
Did you even finish all the socials there, Ben?
I didn't do any of the others. We've got a YouTube channel as well. It's Grumpy Gamers Podcast.
We got stuff.
Yeah, look, if you go into YouTube and type in Grumpy Gamers Podcast, it's the one with our logo, because there's actually like 4 or 5 other channels like called Grumpy Gamers, but ours has got podcast in the name.
And you purposely trying to drag it out because we've got about like a minute until it goes over.
We've got a minute.
And
drag out
unfortunately for Ben, it is GG.
Oh no! Hang on, with the ringtone at the front and back, isn't that going to push
Say it quickly,
over?
Eddie. GG.
GG.